Hey guys, I'm Patrick, the CEO of Orokan. What happened to checkbooks? I mean, the different spellings for checkbook, that annoys me, by the way. So there's checkbook, which is Cheque for us in the western part of the world. And then there's the US. You guys call it check. 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 I never understood the difference in that. Why? And why'd you guys decide to rename it? Because you don't like the QUE? That's interesting. Anyway, I'll leave that for a minute. Let's talk about the checkbooks. What went wrong and yeah, what happened to it? Because I remember I saw it in I came to, I think it was in Switzerland, and I went in and I opened a bank account, and then there was a button for a checkbook. I couldn't believe it. I worked at UBS then, and I went back and I remember just making fun of them, going, guys, I mean, maybe I should just ask my money back and just leave. I was like, guys, hey, can you guys afford to pay me? You're still using checkbooks, you know? And then so I looked into this a bit further just for this video, right? I've got, again, it's so old, I had to get some stats on this and just write this down, okay? And apologies, I'm going to have to read this a bit. So according to, a 2023, review, 20 countries, are currently still using checkbooks, which I think is a decline because we have about 200, and if not more, about 250, 275 countries in the world. So 20 countries are still using checkbooks, which I think is very good. So that would mean that there's a lot more either cash less or cash only payments method that is in use today, and definitely no more checkbooks, which is good, in my opinion. I'll talk about the pain I have with those things, but checkbooks is just crazy. And then if you look at it in 2024, there was an analysis, right? And the analysis just looked at the euro area alone. The euro area alone, and there was just less than 1% of non-cash transactions. So that would mean that everything else was actually, either electronics in one way or the other. So less than 1%, which I think was if you ask me, that's very futuristic. That's where we want to be. Holding on to cash is something else. But what are checkbooks? What are they? How are they being used today? So in terms of the history, okay, and I've got this written. So the history is that it was actually in around the 20th century, it became part of just a way of making payments, right? So what would happen then in those days, you actually write a check, okay? And in many places, I think about 1990s, you still had to do this. You write a check and you sign an amount and you sign your name. There's a whole movie here called, I think it was Frank Abagnale, Catch Me If You Can. And what he did is he used to forge the checks because he forged the signature. If you can forge a signature, that's easy to do going forward. Dubai used to do that as well. I think there were a few years, I watched a few documentaries in Dubai where you go in and people write forward dated checks. And that's how you do with a car wash. So you're going to a car wash, you write a forward dated check and then you send it out. So what will happen is you have to trust the owner of the car would write the amount, write their name, and then go cash it in the bank. So the trust just did not make sense. Like I saw it, and even as a kid, I remember going into banking and going, really? Do they trust people that much? Like I could write anything in here. We're like, yeah, but that's your check. You have to honor the check. I'm like, in that case, you might as well just honor my word. Why are you honoring my writing? So it's an interesting concept, which I'm glad is gone now, right? And the decline, I think, was just mostly in most places across, in the 1990s when it started to decline. To me, I would argue that it was about the 2000s when, the rise of digital banking. Because again, I repeat, humans are the most lazy creatures on earth. We're so lazy that if we have to write 5 checks, it's already annoying compared to just typing. So as soon as digital banking came up in the 1990s, it was easy to say, okay, we're just going to go digital. I'll send you your money, or I'm going to type the amount, or I'll just type it on my phone. Good luck. The banking system will take care of it. That's where the third party started coming in. That's where, in fact, I'll tell you what, if you went in, that's where MasterCard, Visa card came on, because MasterCard, Visa card were the people in the middle. So they would help you do all the transactions. And it's intensely painful to put together. Guys, you have no idea. So I can tell you now, when you make a payment on our rings or make a payment on anything else, okay? So again, I'm not sure I said this at this time, the CEO of Aruka. Aruka has a smart payment ring, so you can tap to pay with your ring. Okay, this is not a wedding ring. People see this and think it's my wedding ring. It is a wedding ring. It looks like a wedding ring. We have this in white, gold, silver. So when I wear the gold on, people think it's a wedding ring until I pay. And then they freak out. So we're available in 200 countries as well, which is very cool. But when you make a payment, it goes immediately, right? Instantly, less than 2 seconds. Unlike checks where you have to write it, you have to go in, you have to queue up, you have to put it through the post, or put it to the teller, the ATM, which is the automated teller. That's where it came from. You have to give it to the teller, they write it down, and then they cash the check. They get your cash. yeah, or you put into your bank account. But you had to queue up for those things, which was a pain. Then they decided to go ahead and put it into like a box outside. So the automated futuristic banks used to have it where you put it through the box and then they put it away and they cash it overnight. Again, look how long that takes. So the electronic ones worked straight away where you could go in a few seconds, your money's in the account. But the downside of that, which people don't realize, is that MasterCard, Visa card, all the banks, including us on the fintech side, it takes a few days for the payments to go through. So it's reconciled. So while you get the payment immediately, between the merchant gets the payment immediately. The payment leaves your account immediately. Merchant gets it. But in the back end, it comes to us. We go in, we reconcile it. Then it goes to another bank. Intermediary bank goes in, reconciles it with our customer's bank. So it takes that process takes good 7 to 30 days. Which people don't realize. However, right, things go well, things progress if you're helping customers. So customers were happy with that. They don't care about the bank. They don't care about us. All they care about is when I tap to pay, does it work immediately? Yes. Do I need to walk around my wallet or phones? No. They're happy with that. Same thing as well with the phones, with the wallets as well. Your wallet is, you have a card. If you love walking around with your wallet, you could tap with your wallet or your card and then it works instantly as well. 2 seconds max. That's better than going in with the cash and then writing a check and taking out your checkbook. Those days you have to have your checkbook in your pocket, take it out. You have to have a pen or you borrow a pen, you write it down and send it out. And then the check couldn't bounce, you were not sure. You can get a response as well. Yeah, so that was the point, right? So I think the main point was it started to disappear when the electronics, the revolution started coming in terms of rise of digital banking. Then also I've talked about this as well. The consumers just didn't like it. It was a pain to put together. It was a pain to follow around. It was a pain to have those checkbooks in hand. It was a pain, again, you'd write how many checkbooks? I think the checkbooks could hold, I think, 30 pieces of paper and you have the stub. The 30 pieces of paper is what the checkbooks could hold, right? And then what would happen then is when that runs out, you have to get a new checkbook posted out to you before that runs out, which was a pain. So that alone, I think, was big enough. And then some countries actually phased it out. So looking here, I think some countries actually phased out. In Germany, checkbooks were transactions were declined and it just dropped. In Germany, that was closed out altogether. Yeah, so it just got closed out because some countries actually decided not to use it anymore. Then obviously the inconvenience as well, guys. So I never had the pleasure of working in the back office in the bank, but the back office function in the banking was crazy. I did a lot of reconciliation in banking. But people actually manually had to go through those receipts or the checks, try and read the amounts in there, then type the amount or write it somewhere, and then an accountant would have to reconcile it and then pass it on to us to reconcile as well. So the amount of layers of paperwork that had to be done was phenomenal for banks. Crazy high. So with that, I think you look at it, banks obviously were pushing to, as soon as the chance came for them not to use checks, we canceled immediately. Funny enough, the same thing with cash. So banks don't like cash. Yeah, because it's the same thing. When you go in and you take your cash, you pay for cash, what will happen is you have to look at the logistics behind that cash. Because the owner of that shop has to take that cash. Unless they spend the cash immediately, they have to take the cash to their bank to deposit it. When you deposit it, the teller has to count the cash and put it into a safe. And mind you as well, when you put it into a safe, you then take a portion of that safe and put it into an ATM. And then the ATM then has to have a certain amount because you know yourselves, guys, if you live in the countryside somewhere, after about 11 o'clock, the cash will run out of the ATM. Yeah, or the ATM gets robbed. I've seen a few on YouTube where the ATM just get dragged off straight away, just from robbery, which you can't get on them. It's a different kettle of fish when it comes to transactions of electronics. But the manual side of the theft of checks, the theft of cash just meant that it was easy to transition to electronics. Yeah. So that's it. I think just looking is a bit of a complaint, really, or a ramble. But just going through and looking at the history of checkbooks, guys, you can think of any reason why, maybe checks got cancelled, let me know. But for me, I think it was just the fact that it was just plain inconvenient. It was a pain. It was a retrospective. People don't like writing. We're lazy creatures. We would prefer to do everything electronics. The automation just wasn't there in terms of just confirming when the checks are bounced. Right now, if I go in and I try and make a payment for a Ferrari, sorry, it'll be cancelled. Okay, straight away, people know straight. Okay, it either goes through or it doesn't. You know immediately, right? However, with a check, you could go write a check for a Ferrari, and then those days, people actually drive off with a Ferrari, only to find out a few weeks later that the check is bounced. So, am I glad it's phased out? Yes, God, I hate a check. So, I'm glad it's phased out, and I like the way. Okay, that going forward, we should be able to make payments conveniently to customers, okay, and be able to have customers pay however they want. If they want to pay with cash, fine. If they want to pay with a checkbook, actually, that's fine. Just it'll be more expensive. And then the question now becomes, what's the next step? The next step, I think, will be YouTube, would be with payments with your rings. They can tap to pay wherever you are. Okay. So take care, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Cheers.